Why is it that teachers exposing children to inappropriate material, specifically sexually inappropriate material, is becoming more and more common? Why is that? Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cojones with Santiago. Today's topic comes out of Michigan, where apparently children in middle school were taken to the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, and after they were done, they decided to go eat lunch, and the venue where they went to eat lunch just happened to have stripper poles, and the kids just happened to dance around on them. Now, the story was reported by Fox News, and Libs of TikTok tweeted out about this as well. And after reading the story, honestly, number one, I'm not surprised. And number two, I had some pretty strong opinions about it, which I'm about to get into right now. So I'm going to preface, the first point that I want to make is I am homeschooling my children. And it's stories like this that kind of highlight the reason why I made that decision. So I am a Christian, and I have very strong beliefs on what I consider to be morally right and morally wrong. And it is my duty to raise my children according to my beliefs. That is my responsibility as a parent. Now, I take issue with many teachers out there, not all, but many teachers out there who see their job first and foremost as being activists of some sort. Now, growing up, I had amazing teachers who put the quality of the education, the quality of the content that they were delivering ahead of everything else. These teachers were phenomenal. They taught me truth. They taught me how to think, and I am eternally grateful for the great teachers that I had along the way. That said, I also had some bad teachers, some teachers who were still figuring out their life. And this is kind of the problem that's inherent with the teaching profession. You see, because teachers, in my opinion, are really just overgrown children, the bad ones. The bad teachers are really just overgrown children. They enter school at 5 years old in kindergarten. They go all the way through to 12th grade. They 18 years old. They go to college. They graduate with a 4-year degree. And then what do? They go right back to school. They have no idea how the real world works because their entire life is wrapped up in the education system. They spend most of their time engaging and interacting with children, and in my opinion, that leads to some immaturity, which is why we see so many teachers who believe that they're activists, who believe that their job is to push an ideology as opposed to teaching facts. That's my first point that I wanted to make. And while this story in particular may be about taking kids to a restaurant or a venue that was obviously inappropriate, there's so many other stories that we see popping up all over the nation and all over Western countries, really, right? Whether it's teachers walking into class with giant prosthetic breasts to make some type of a point, teachers trying to indoctrinate kids in whatever random LGBTQ nonsense they think is appropriate, or spewing random just crap about the United States and racism and things that are just not founded in reality. There are so many examples for us to be able to choose from that, looking at the situation, I have to say, I believe I made the right decision in choosing to homeschool my children. Right? Teachers are not activists. They're not supposed to be activists. Their job, they have a single purpose, and that purpose is to teach the subject matter to children. But no, that's not enough. Now we got to make sure that we're grooming kids and indoctrinating them into whatever ideology the powers that be see fit. That's my first point. Now, the second point here, going to the story specifically. Now, yeah, that first point was kind of a preface to all of this, but this second point, going to the story, is this was on a field trip to go to the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, which I think is fantastic. By all means, expose children to some real music. I think that's great. That's great. But what happened is they took the kids to a pizzeria, and this pizzeria happens to be next to a lounge that's used as a club, right, on the weekends. And this club happens to have poles. Now, you don't have to be a genius to figure out that those poles are intended for certain types of dancing. And I actually did some research on the venue itself. I looked up Nikki's Plaza, and I looked up Nikki's Lounge and Nikki's Pizza in Detroit, Michigan, and I found that, they are separate businesses. But when you go to the Nikki's Lounge website, what do you see? Well, there's an age requirement, and the age requirement to enter the lounge is 21 years old. Okay. Now, you could say that, well, the club itself wasn't open when the children were there. That's fine, but it's still an adult venue. As a parent myself, I don't think I would be okay with my children being taken to a bar, a random bar, remove the stripper poles, right? Just a random bar for lunch during a field trip. I gotta wonder, it's like, Like, was Chick-fil-A not around? Like, wasn't there a McDonald's or something like that you guys could have stopped at instead? Of all the businesses you could have possibly chosen, you choose the one with stripper poles. This wasn't by accident. Because when, in reading the story, it goes on to say that initially they were going to eat at Nikki's Pizza, but Nikki's Pizza was full. So they decided that, okay, well, we'll just sit at the lounge. Even if that was the case, the adult that was attached to this group should have walked into the venue and noticed, wait a minute, there are stripper poles here. It might not be a good idea to have minors in this type of location. Okay, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and take it a step further. Let's say they didn't think anything of it because maybe they were the only people there, right? They walk in. Don't you think that those same adults should have prevented the children from dancing around on the poles? But instead, what do we see? We see pictures of these kids spinning around on these stripper poles. And man, I got to tell you, maybe I'm just old fashioned, right? But I remember a time where teachers used to tell boys, like, well, if you don't keep your grades up, you're going to end up flipping burgers for the rest of your life. And they used to tell girls what? If you don't get good grades, you're going to end up a stripper. But now we're encouraging kids in middle school. Hey, by all means, shorty, go ahead, get yours. You might as well get started now because you'll either end up being a stripper or an OnlyFans model, right? That's what these teachers are doing. Where were the adults? To tell these children, first of all, to make the right decision in saying, nah, we're going elsewhere. I am sure between that restaurant and their school, which they had to travel back to, I'm sure there were plenty of other restaurants, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A's, Burger King, IHOP, take your pick, right? Plenty of other places they could have stopped, and they should have removed themselves. No, but instead they decided to stay. Taking it a step further, not only did they stay, but they allowed the children to dance around on the poles. I honestly don't understand. I don't understand what the reasoning is there. You know, I think that reading the story further, there's actually one guy who's kind of raising the alarm internally. I think his name is Weaver, and he's a board trustee. And he's saying, look, these people, they exercise poor judgment. I agree with him, right? And I think that taking it a step further, it's not just poor judgment, right, that's being exercised here. The school is also trying to cover their own butts in this entire situation by saying, well, you know, anybody who talks out about this, we're going to kind of, we're going to pursue legal action against them. Now, I have to wonder, it's like, why exactly would you pursue legal action against people who are raising things that are morally wrong? Things that I would say most parents in that school or in that district would say, yeah, you should have chosen a different venue. You should have taken the kids somewhere else to eat. So why are you pursuing legal action against somebody who is voicing an opinion that probably most parents have? And this highlights, again, the initial point that I made. The school, the district, the administrators, they are not your allies. They are not your friends. If you are a parent and your child is in public school, understand that you are at war against these people. It's as simple as that. It is as simple as that. So many examples across the United States of America that we can point to and say, parents are actively being targeted for action whenever they voice their opinion against the ideologies that these schools are trying to push. And this, to me, is an extension of all of the other grooming stuff that we see, right? The drag show for kids, which is just another example of absolute disgusting behavior that our society should be condemning, and instead so many people want to champion and say, well, you know, a guy wearing a thong with his ball sack hanging out, flopping it around in front of kids, that's perfectly cool. That's empowering. Nah, it's not. You're gross and you need help, right? So it's our job as parents to stand up and to fight these fights for our kids because they don't have a voice for themselves. If my kid was on this field trip, I would be so pissed. And they would not hear the end of it. And I would make sure that the adults and the teachers specifically who were involved here would be out of a job ASAP, because my kids are not political pawns. My kids are not yours to raise. Your job is very simple. Teach the thing you know. And the thing you know is very limited. If you're a music teacher, you know music. If you're an English teacher, you know English. Your job is not to raise and instruct and instill morals and ethics. That's my job as a parent, not yours. You don't get to choose what's acceptable and what's not. And when you're not sure if parents will get pissed off, you better err on the side of caution. Because if my kid were on this field trip and they got taken to a place where there were stripper poles and they were dancing around on them and there were pictures, we would have some serious problems. Yeah. So again, this is really just highlighting the reason why more and more families are making the decision to homeschool. You see, because I don't think that America is inherently evil. I still have faith and hope that the principles and the beliefs that our country was founded on still exist. I still believe that many Americans share those things in common. And those are the things that I'm fighting for. But a part of that also means removing yourself from the system that seeks to poison you so that you can make better decisions, so that you can take care of your kids. You know, I heard a quote. I'm not exactly who said it, but it's this idea: don't send your kids to Caesar and be surprised when they come back Romans. Right? So the idea that we send our kids to these state-funded schools where these different ideologies are being pushed and you have no say in their education, you have no say in what your kid is doing 8 hours out of the day, you do that for 12 years and you're not going to recognize your child at the end of it. And that's a very dangerous thing, and it's scary. And as a parent, that terrifies me. So that's why some people may say that homeschooling is inconvenient, and some people may say that you have to rearrange your life. And that's totally true. You do have to rearrange your life, but it's not inconvenient. It is not inconvenient. What job, what role, what function do I have in society that is more important than my job as a father? What role do I fulfill in society that takes precedence over me being a good father? Not a single one. Not a single one. My job as a father to raise functioning members of society, to raise kids with good morals, to raise kids who have the courage to speak out, to speak truth, like actual truth, not your story, right? But like objective truth. Kids who have the courage to stand up for what is right, what is fair, to seek righteousness and justice. My job in instructing my children in those things is the most important thing that I do with my life. So when you send your kids to public school and you have these teachers, these activists, I won't call them teachers, these activists indoctrinating your kids for 8 hours straight, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Because today, this story may be benign and some of you may be saying, he's blowing things out of proportion. It's not that big of a deal. It was just a restaurant and there wasn't anybody else there and there just happened to be stripper poles and the kids just happened to dance on them. But every single concession that we make, every step we take down this path of allowing our children to be exposed to things that they should not be exposed to, allowing our children's innocence to be taken away from them, every single step we take down this path is leading us to ruin. And we have to call a spade, and we have to acknowledge that. 30 years ago, this would not have even crossed a teacher's mind. To take a kid to a place that had stripper, are you kidding me? I think teachers back then would have preferred that kids went hungry that day, or eaten their lunch on the bus, or told them to pack Lunchables, instead of taking them somewhere where there were stripper poles. Are you out of your mind? This is just another example, folks, of us living in clown world. So there you have it. My thoughts on Michigan middle school taking kids out to eat, at a strip club. I don't know if we can call it that, but at a club with stripper poles. So, if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, do the whole nine. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you next time. Peace.